in my adult life.
All right, Mr. Dorfman. Well, I appreciate the
Okay.
conversation before the conversation here, Adam. So it's great to have you, my friend. And I thought the best way to start this, I mean, obviously everybody knows who you are. You're the retail king, you've been in the business a long time, but I've known you a long time. I think first time I met you, I flew out to Brandy's office and you were an assistant manager in Brandy's office. And I think you spent the entire day organizing her closet in the office, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, when Brandy promoted assistant managers, the first day the rule was you clean what she called the no-no room, which sounds dirtier than it is, I guess. I mean, it was your responsibility is you will clean out the storage facility closet at the old office. That was your number one job. And I 100% blame Cunliffe for this, because he got promoted and he kicks his shoes up on the couch. He's like, "So Brandy, where will we be lunching today?" And so everybody to follow got the wrath of that.
Yeah, we could blame Ed for a lot of things, I think, but that one's personal for you. But obviously you left a great impression on me. I mean, instantly I liked you. You didn't complain. You worked hard. And so I want to make sure I've got my history straight, because obviously I've known you for 20 years, but I think what's interesting that most people don't know about you is, with all the campaigns you've worked on, obviously, you and I worked on Quill. You were like the Biggie Smalls of the East, and I was Tupac of the West for a long time.
Every week, man, 1 and 2.
Yeah, exactly. Years. And merchant processing, you took a nice stab at merchant processing. Obviously, retail, various campaigns on retail. And so what's interesting is no matter what falls on your lap, okay, whether you chose it or whether it just sort of fell on your lap. And I think you even did stamps.com round 2, if I'm not mistaken.
I did. I came out to California and piloted it.
Right.
It was hilarious. I had a broken foot and I was in the field every day out in had a broken toe going through the field in California and LA. It was very funny.
Right. And so whatever it is that you do, like, you have done very well on it. I mean, you're not afraid to roll up your sleeves. You're not afraid to go in the field, and you find a way to win. So I think that's interesting. Again, whether it's residential, B2B, retail, it doesn't matter what environment you're thrown. It doesn't matter what territory you're thrown. You seem to find a way to succeed. And so I just want to kind of start this conversation off touching on that, a little bit of your history. What do you credit that to?
Thanks, Jamie. I mean, I think I watched my dad start a business and I watched the ups and downs of it. And the thing I learned was, if you just work hard and you do the right thing and you're honest and you give it your best, one of two things is going to happen. You'll either win, or you'll prove that you deserve another shot. And so my merchant processing campaign I was on, I opened as a rookie. I never saw a sale during my training. We figured it out. We did okay. Quill kind of fell in our laps. And I had to make a choice. I had 5 guys. And it's like, I was a rookie owner. I'd been in business for 3 months. I had to make the choice. All right, do I stick with this merchant processing thing, or do I do Quill? I jumped on Quill. Went in the field every day. I had no idea what I was doing. Fortunately, there was this owner named Randy out in California on your team who was kicking ass. And I took it was the only time I ever borrowed money as an owner. I borrowed $1,000 from Brandy because I had about $1,000 left in my business bank account. And I said, "Hey, here's my plan. I'm going to take my only 2 guys that are worth anything. And I'm going to go out. I want to go out to Randy's office and learn Quill," because I never got trained on Quill either. I just figured anything I knew. I'd never seen somebody do more than two sales in a day, right? And these guys were killing. I just said, if I go out there for a week and watch and observe and go see what they're doing, I think I'll be good. And the commitment was always, you either win or you die trying. And if you have that mindset, there's the whatever it takes, no questions asked. whatever needs to be done, you do it. There's no such thing as it's not my job. There's no such thing as it's too hard. The only answer is, okay, let's go. And so when it was Quill, it was okay, let's go. When it was the opportunity to pilot different programs, some of which did not make it, okay, let's go. And when retail came along, okay, let's go. And when I got out in the field for a few days and I got a feel for what it was, I saw an opportunity to build something new. But there were some things that, there's a lot of the guys that were around back then, Jamie, there was a lot of hype and a lot of inflated numbers, just to put it, is a way that I would put it. And I wanted to be able to do things with full transparency and kind of do things my way. And so the conversation with Jim and Gary and Vera was, I'll take this on and you will never have seen anyone work harder. Very similar to what you did with solar. And I think you and I have always had the reputations, although we approach things differently, of being the workhorses, I think, right? And you in a much more thoughtful way than me. With me, I just make decisions really fast and go hard and pivot quickly. Very, very fast, as they say, OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, and act. That's what I've done, is I've just made choices really fast, latched onto what works and kill what doesn't with very little hesitation. And sometimes that's not worked out well, and sometimes it has. I think it's the high D and massive ADD that just made that work.
Nice. And how much of this do you credit your story is interesting, as most of your life growing up, your dad was like Poe, right?
Yeah.
Like he wasn't kicking butt, it was this
I would say from like when I was 5 till when I was 14, things were 13, things were not good. Like Poe. And then he could afford the other O and R by the time I was about 13. And then a few years after that, he was doing fine, like middle class, upper middle class. And then my senior year of college, he sold his company. And there were some stints in the middle where he made a lot of money, and then it went away, and then made money, and it was really volatile.
And so did that play a big part of, again, I'm just trying to unpack your relentlessness and, again, your reputation. Like, even if we started a new program in 2023, you're like, if I'm Vera and Gary and I'm putting together a list of 5 names, you're one of those 5 names of a guy that I want to potentially pilot a brand new program. You have that reputation. Like, now, whether everybody else can do it, we don't know, but Adam Dorfman can do it, that we know.
I appreciate that. I mean, I really like to build things. And back to my ADD being my superpower, I get bored really easily. And so if there's something new to figure out, my therapist tells me I love to solve problems. I just get tired quickly of solving the same ones. And so I love new challenges. And it's not blind. I mean, they've approached me to do things and I was like, I don't think that shit's going to work. and I've said no to a lot. With retail, it was really easy. It was an easy decision. I was like, I've gone door to door in Milwaukee in December and Arizona in July. And so if we can get great people willing to do that, pretty sure we can make standing in a store sexy if we tell the story the right way. And we just had to learn how to tell the story. And there were a lot of hiccups. I mean, Jamie, we had, better than anybody, there were some big downs. And the relentlessness, Ryan Holiday has become a big inspiration for me lately because he puts things really simply. And I love how he says, and this applies to everything, but he specifically was talking about time management when he said this, but it applies to money. It applies to energy. It applies to any decisions we make, but everything we say, everything we say yes to, we're saying no to something else. And everything we say no to, we're saying yes to something else. And so there's an unwillingness to fail. And there is this, all right, well, if I were to say no to this, meaning this opportunity or this business, what's my yes? And I'm a pretty practical dude. I haven't found anything better. I mean, that's it. We live in this la land sometimes where, sorry, my phone's inside charging and my text is blowing up. My do not disturb is not on. I apologize. So you'll hear some dinging, but um, I can't imagine ever having a boss. I can't imagine not working for myself. And I love helping people. And I still go to my office. Well, I mean, we're virtual on Saturdays and Sundays because of retail, but I go to my office, you know, I'm with my team 5 days a week to 6 days a week. And I'm not there as much as I was at 26 years old or 27 years old. I'm not hanging out having wings every night. But as you get better, you can do more in less time. And the relentlessness is based on this belief that I was put on this planet to teach people what they're capable of. We all have our why. I mean, and not why of why we work hard, but why of why we believe we exist. I love the look on somebody's face when they shatter a limiting belief. It's like heroin to me. So, I mean, I guess that's it.
Okay. Great. And so retail, obviously you took a stab at retail when other people were sort of passing on it. You know, that was kind of interesting, a little piece of history there. And you stepped into that helm. And so, and then on retail, you've worked on a lot of different things. So, you know, just talk to us a little bit about retail specifically, like, you know, from where it's come from, where you believe it's going. I know obviously you've got, you know, all your eggs in that basket. I mean, just give us a little retail blurb, state of the union of retail.
Well, I mean, with retail right now, I believe that retail is a business. You know, obviously the online world is booming. I gotta plug in here. Sorry. The online world is obviously booming and people want to expand into online business and everything else. But at the end of the day, people still like to shop. And so
Okay, I see eyes moving, so I'm not frozen. It's Adam. Okay.
idea of what they're doing with Connect Me Better, where you have the ability to own the retail relationship, I think is a big piece of our future, where we're going to be able to have the conversation of, okay, we want to set up a store within a store and truly help people reduce their costs of existence. And I think that what they're experimenting with, one sec, guys, sorry. With Connect Me Better is something that we've been talking about on retail since the beginning. We just had to start owning retail relationships. And so I think a big piece of it is that, but you know, right now, our biggest thing we've got to do is we've got to get better at staffing. And so we're in a position where we've all got to get on the same page with our story. And I think a big piece of what our story is going to be over the next 10 years, I think we're in for a mess. And Jamie, I think you and I would agree on that. While we may not always align politically, I think we ideologically, we will agree that it's going to be a shitstorm for the next 3 to 5 years in the United States. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, both sides have been printing money for the last 3 years. And eventually, and it's starting, I don't know, let me know if you guys are seeing it, because I am. The companies that have been paying people obscene amounts of money to sit around on beanbag chairs and play foosball and eat free food at their kitchens without having a real idea of how to generate a profit, that shit's going away. I don't know if you guys agree or not, but I'm seeing it. Because I'm seeing people come in and take a whole lot less money as a guarantee than what they were guaranteed before, just to have the opportunity to actually do some work. And our business has this unique ability to bring out the best in people. It has a unique ability to teach people what they're capable of, to stretch their limits, to test their limits. And it's got the ability to help people learn not just new skills, but a level of discipline that's not generally taught. And I believe that we can have an impact on the greater, for the greater good on the economic landscape of our country if we do things correctly. Because you're going to have a lot of people who are lost and desperate and scared in the next 3 to 5 years. And if they're willing to work and learn and humble themselves, I've got a home for them. And that's my story with every final interview I do. I say it just like that. I don't talk about the home, but in the sense of, we are in a business where we're going to continue to focus on needs, right? The clients we work with, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You've got oxygen and water and food, and shelter used to be the next thing above that. But a cell phone is actually before shelter. Because you can't get the shelter, you can't get the car, you can't get the job if you don't have a number. It's 2023. There's a homeless person on every street corner with a cell phone. And so if we can take a need that someone has, give them a great value, and maybe offer them a job and a chance to change their lives, we can make a really big impact. And so it's not just cell phones, it's energy, it's internet, it's eventually, I think, going to be things like refinance of automobiles, insurance, all kinds of things. I've got a good buddy who's the CEO of a big TV company. He's asking how, they're really working on their relationship in Target. He's asking, hey, while your guys are selling cell phones, would they be able to, go in and do, do you think you could get your team to show up 30 minutes early and do a quick inventory at the stores? That's doable, right? Do you think if you're in a city and you're already going to Targets that you could host a training class on this TV brand? Sure. Let's figure out how we can work together. And more, these huge companies are going to realize that the market sources of the world that are great at customer engagement but terrible at selling anything are a giant waste of money. And when the street comes calling and they want to know where their earnings are, they got to think of Sidcor. They got to think of Sidcor Retail for how to up those earnings, because we're the ones who are going to make everybody feel good and bring in the money. So that's kind of what my vision is.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I remember in like early 2000, 1999, 2000, right? Like the .com world was just exploding. I mean, anybody that moved to the Silicon Valley was just like, money hand over fist. And eventually these .coms figured out like, hey, we got to turn a profit. And then
right.
the .com world turned into the .bomb world, right? They started imploding. I mean, I was working for several of these clients, piloting Respawn.com and all these different vendors that were just going out of business at every direction, because again, shareholders are like, hey, show me the balance sheet, like, like Shark Tank, like how much revenue is actually coming in. And so obviously, to your point, Sidcor versus like a market source, like we are the revenue generators here. And so a lot of eyes should open up in this new economy coming for sure.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. We got to be more savvy than we were last time the economy crashed. We can't sit around and just wait for things to get easier, because if we don't, last time we screwed up, Jamie, it got easier to recruit great talent. We got really good at low hanging fruit because there was a lot of it, and we ate it all, and we didn't get any better. We didn't teach these really awesome people overall. Well, there were some exceptions, but overall, we didn't teach these incredibly talented, mature, motivated people how to make enough money. So when things got better, they left. Things are different now. EDM had 200 and something reps make over $1,200 last week. a quarter of the campaign's making $60,000 or better before bonuses. If we can take higher unemployment, not get lazy, choose to get better, and make sure to treat people as people, not as objects, the level of success that I believe we're going to achieve as a company is unheard of.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Adam, I know we're running a little short on time. The only other question I had, and then if time permits, I'll open it up here. What are your owners focused on? What's the messaging in your org right now?
Dollars per rep per day. Teaching people stress management and how to focus on happiness. And I know that's so touchy-feely, it's hard to quantify, but a lot of the people we're recruiting have no idea how to handle stress because they ended up going to college and graduating college during COVID. And so a bunch of their tests got excused. They didn't have to face the same social trials and tribulations. They were on lockdown for a year to 3 years, depending on where they lived. And so teaching people to get over this immature perfectionism that they have and learning to work together and collaboratively and simultaneously learning to work independently. So meaning as managers, we've got to put our egos away and ask for help. And we've got to teach these young people how to stop comparing themselves to what they see on the internet. We've got to teach delayed gratification. There's not a week that goes by in my office where I don't talk about the fact that what you see online is lies and bullshit. Because we have to consistently remind these young people that Rome wasn't built over a day, but built overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. And we've got to challenge people to really figure out what they want, not in terms of stuff, but in terms of experience. And so that's what a lot of the focus is. How do we work together as a leadership team to make things better for people? And how do you create a true work-life balance? And when I say work-life balance, people get it wrong. Work-life balance doesn't mean you work a 40-hour week and you play 72 hours and you sleep 56. Work-life balance means you have a balanced life. To me, a balanced life, and maybe this is where I'm a little nuts and I have a screw loose, but a balanced life is everything's equal. 56 hours of sleep, 56 hours of play, 56 hours of work. Now, if you do that, you're 40% ahead of the average American in terms of how much effort you put in. So if you're making 40% deposits in a compounding interest account over the course of 30 years, you get to make some really big withdrawals later. And that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, interesting perspective, Adam. I've never heard it presented that way before. So we're running short on time. Anybody have any thoughts, questions here for Adam?
Hey, Gareth, great job last week. Nothing?
How are you teaching stress management, Adam? I know you've run a couple of workshops on it.
A lot of it is based on personal discipline, Ricky, like in the sense of stress comes from surprises, usually. It comes from the unexpected. It comes from living in this state of constant reactivity. And, you know, in the last, Jamie, I'm gonna pull a Bible verse for you.
Whoa, here we go.
What's the most does anybody know what the most repeated phrase in the Bible is? 3 words.
Do not fear.
Be not afraid. Be not afraid. And what we got to remember is up until about the last 200 years, if something scared us, most likely it was trying to kill us. Right? So genetically, we haven't changed a whole lot in the last like 1,000 years, 2,000 years, really? Like our DNA just changed some. We haven't evolved to the point in the last 2,000 years, since the time that Jesus walked the earth. We haven't really changed that much physiologically. And the world is changing intellectually more every second than it did every century at that time. There's more new advancements every second in technology than every century 2,000 years ago. And so we haven't evolved to be able to discern the fear that you hear when you're walking through the woods and hear a rattle and stop to figure out if there's a snake that's going to kill you. Or you hear a shuffling and think, there's an enemy that's trying to take my land, versus the fear of, oh my God, what if I can't go out with my friends Friday night? Because genetically, it's the same response. It's the same response of being chased by a marauder to not being able to pay your rent next month. The results are wildly different. And physiologically, our body responds the same way. When we're scared, our brain tells our body to release cortisol to slow our metabolism so that we burn fewer calories in the event that we can't eat for a while. And the blood leaves our brain and goes to our extremities so that we can fight or run. And so stress management is really energy management and fear management. It's about teaching people to be proactive about things like money, time, energy, and making time to solve problems. Jamie, you're an amazing planner. You're way better at it than I am. I'm so not naturally good at it that I plan in time to catch up. Because you're incredibly organized. I'm incredibly ADD. And so for me, if I don't plan time to, herd the cats that are running around in my brain, I'm fucked. And so the way I teach stress management, Mr. Bailey, is teaching people to use Google Calendar obsessively, teaching people to be realistic about the time that it takes to do things. This is a math. So I'm a DI, which means that I can get more done in less time than the average person. But I also think that, what was that? The company, the picture that won, the movie that won best picture? I think I can do that. Everything, everywhere, all at once. That's what I believe I'm capable of, right? And so I was joking with my buddy David earlier today. I was like, I think that best picture was about me, because like what the expectation I have of myself is. And so it's teaching people. It doesn't mean you never get stressed. You do. It's just how quickly can you decompress it and compartmentalize and figure out, all right, what's my order of operations? And that fast OODA loop is something that we try and teach. Observe, orient, decide, act. Don't be afraid to make choices. Your gut is usually right. The opposite of a good decision is not a bad decision, it's indecision. And there's a difference between, Brandy taught me this a long time ago. You look at your life or your business as a tree. You've got your leaves, you've got your branches, and you've got your leaves, your stems, your branches, and your trunks. Your trunk, right? If a tree loses a leaf, it's not a big deal. If a tree loses a stem, it's not a big deal. If a tree loses a branch, it's painful, but as long as it's just one branch, it can recover. And if a tree loses the trunk, it's dead. So it's about teaching people to make leaf and stem decisions quickly and to weigh heavily on branch and trunk ones. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's, how do you make leaf decisions really fast? Who cares if they're wrong? Learn from them, but have no ego, right? So if the decision you made was wrong, say that was fucking dumb. Let's try something else. PG, that was 2 F-bombs. And so PG-13, I can have 2. I can't go to 3 or I go to R.
Yeah, you're at your limit.
I'm at my limit.
And we're at time, Adam. So thank you for taking
Jamie,
time
thanks for
out of
having
your-
me. I know we got you in a couple weeks on my call, so I appreciate that as well. You were the ask. I was like, what consultants do we want to hear from? And it was Jamie. So,
Oh, great.
all right, guys. Thank you for your time. Y'all have a great day.
See you guys. Thank you, Adam.